Hello guys, and this is Scott here, and welcome to another historic video. And in this one I'm doing a summer that I've had quite a few requests for, and that is of course the summer of 2013. Now this was quite an interesting summer because it was the first summer after quite a few that was decent. Between 2007 and 2012 we had some pretty horrendous summers, especially those two. And the summer of 13 was finally the first decent one. And it followed a pretty cold winter, which was what we had a look at yesterday, which was known as well for that phenomenally cold March. And it came on the back of quite a cold spring as well. So just before we get started, I'd just like to say that many of the facts and figures that you hear in this video come from Trevor Harley's personal weather website. He has an archive of facts and figures going back to the start of the 20th century and smaller fragments of information going back further than that. And the charts that you see in this video come from wetterzentral.d. They have an archive of charts going back to January of 1871. So as I always say, if you want to request a historic video, you can pick anything from January of 1871 onwards. So let's get on with the summer of 2013. Now we're going to start off on the 31st of May 2013, so the last day of the spring. And you can see that we're in a relatively slack pattern there. You know, we've just about got high pressure ridging up from the southwest. Now, this was dragging down a sort of a north to northeasterly wind, so it wasn't a particularly warm pattern, but it was quite sunny. And of course at this time of the year you do have the advantage of day length and sun strength. So you know, in the middle of the days it didn't feel too bad, but it did mean that the nights were rather chilly. And that went on into the start of June 2013. And in June 2013 was actually a slightly colder than average month, can you believe? It has a Central England temperature of 13.6. But because it was a relatively dry and settled month, it actually didn't feel too bad. Away from the east coast though, where there was generally a bit more cloud. In the west where I am, it was actually quite a nice start to June. We had temperatures, you know, going up sort of to around 20 degrees in the day, but falling away at night. So there we are on the 1st of June, and we carry on really where May left off. And we have the the cool northeasterly wind, but again it's keeping it relatively sunny. And that goes on as we go through into the 2nd and the 3rd of June. You can see high pressure actually builds through the country and into the 4th. As I said again, you know, it's under a relatively cool air mass, so it wasn't too warm in this, but it was dry and relatively sunny. Into the 5th and the 6th of June, where pressure actually starts to weaken a little bit. So it was just a relatively pleasant early summer anticyclonic spell. And as we go through the 7th and into the 8th of June, the high pressure temporarily comes back and into the 9th and the 10th of June. Well, then as we go into the 11th, the Atlantic tries to have a bit of a go. So we bring in a bit of low pressure into the west. But it doesn't really make much of an inroads. It just brings, you know, thicker cloud and maybe patchy drizzle. June 13 was quite a dry month actually. And that goes on into the 12th and the 13th of June. Before by the 14th, high pressure actually attempts to come back, and we actually get a little bit of a warm spell here. So we have temperatures, you know, sort of going up into the mid-20s in the south. But it doesn't last too long because low pressure does come back by the 15th and into the 16th. And then on the 17th, what we actually have is an area of low pressure coming up from the Bay of Biscay. And as we go into the 18th, it actually turns into quite a slack trough. So it weakens, but what it brings is some thunderstorms to the southern half of the country. Whereas further north, it's, you know, much more settled under that ridge of high pressure. And then high pressure temporarily builds into the 19th and the 20th, and this actually again brings temperatures up into the mid-20s in the south. So we have 26 degrees at Hertsmonceau in Sussex. which obviously, again, as I said, after that relatively cold spring, spring didn't really bring much in the way of warmth at all. It actually felt rather pleasant, even though, that's pretty typical for June. And then as we go into the 21st and the 22nd, then we start to go a bit more unsettled then, as we bring in quite a big area of low pressure off the Atlantic. That's down to 990 millibars, which is actually, fairly strong for the middle of the summer. So this brings a bit of a breezy day into the 23rd as well, where winds do back into the north a bit on the 24th, so we get a bit of a cooler snap here. But high pressure is relatively fast to come back, because as we go through the 25th and into the 26th of June, this actually starts to bring temperatures a little bit higher. So we start to get a bit of a warm spell now across the whole country. So this is, just a bit of a precursor to what happens in July. So that carries on into the 27th and into the 28th. Where on the 29th we actually record 27.2 degrees at Heathrow. So this is the warmest temperature of June. Which again, it's pretty mediocre. But again, that's just because of the cold spring. There wasn't much, residual warmth around. And then we finish off June 2013 with this area of low pressure coming into the north. And that takes us into the start of July 2013. And this is where the summer really started to blossom. Because from pretty much like the flick of a switch, from June and into July, we go from a cool pattern into a very warm pattern. July 2013 has a Central England temperature of 18.3 degrees, and it's actually the warmest and sunniest July since 2006. It actually records an average of 289 hours of sunshine, which is fantastic for July. And across the whole country, actually, this doesn't take into account the CET, but the Met Office's records. It's the 6th warmest July on record. So, again, it's a very, very decent month. So there we are on the 1st, and we have the area of low pressure to the north. And on the 2nd, we bring another one in. But as that starts to clear away on the 3rd, the high pressure is about to, seize its opportunity. And as we go into the 4th, it starts to build into the south of the UK and into Europe. And as I've said in many other hot summer historic videos, that is pretty much always a sign of hot weather to come in the UK. So as we go through the 5th and into the 6th of July 2013, that high pressure now just completely takes over the UK, and it starts to bring up warmer air from the south. So we have temperatures going up into the mid-20s. And in fact, every day between the 6th and the 24th of July inclusive, we actually record 28 degrees somewhere in the UK, which makes the heat wave of July 2013 the most prolonged since August 1997. So, a very remarkable statistic there. And then as we go into the 7th, that high pressure just sits there, and pretty much that's what it does for the rest of the month, until really the last week. High pressure just sits over the top of the UK. So as we go through the 8th and into the 9th of July, it just stays there, and it just allows temperatures to creep up a little bit further every day. There are bits of patchy clouds, so every now and again, people do miss out on all of the heat and sunshine, but those days become a lot less numerous as we head further into the month. So again, the 10th and into the 11th and the 12th of July, high pressure just stays over the UK, and days are very sunny and very warm. Into the 13th and the 14th of July and the 15th, it just stays there into the 16th. And then as we go into the 17th of July, this is where the highest temperatures start to come. So we have temperatures going up to 32 degrees in London, at Heathrow more specifically. So we hit the magic 90 Fahrenheit on the 17th of July. And that carries on into the 18th and the 19th of July. We have temperatures going into the high 20s and low 30s in the southeast. Into the 20th and the 21st. But this is where the heat wave starts to break down now, because as we go into the 22nd, you can see that that area of high pressure has now started to retreat up towards Scandinavia. Now, the flip side of that is this drags up some very warm air from the south. So we record a temperature of 33.5 degrees at Heathrow and at Northolt, which makes that the highest temperature of July 2013. And what this means though, as that high pressure retreats, we increase the humidity, and overnight 22nd into the 23rd of July, we bring massive thunderstorms through the country. And those are the upper air temperatures there on the 22nd of July. You can see that we have the 15 Celsius isotherm across quite a large part of the UK, and that always indicates hot weather. As I said, the settled weather breaks down as we go into the 23rd, and we bring some massive thunderstorms up through the country. And that is actually a chart of all the lightning strikes recorded on the 23rd. We have over 30,000 lightning strikes just recorded in that 24-hour period. And I actually had a big one up here in Manchester. I remember being woken up by thunder at about 6 o'clock in the morning and just being lay in bed like wondering, what the hell was that? And there was just a massive flash of lightning outside and, instantaneous thunder. And that, made me realise that it was a thunderstorm. So I grabbed my camera and, went to a window and recorded it. And I've still got the video actually. If you've been on my channel for any more than 20 minutes, that I do like recording storms. And I've still got a lot of the thunderstorm videos from the summer of 2013. And I'll leave those in the description below. But as you can see, the storms move northwards through the country during the early hours and through the daylight of the 23rd. And then it stays really relatively unsettled into the 24th. But the thing was, it didn't turn cooler. In fact, it just stayed quite warm and muggy. But, because the pressure's weaker over the country, we often see quite a lot of thundery showers developing. In fact, just in this last week of July 2013, I actually recorded 4 days of thunder. So 4 out of 7 days with thunder recorded where I am in Manchester, which is quite a big statistic for the UK. That goes on into the 25th and the 26th. Before, on the 27th, you can actually see we've got another area of low pressure developing across France. And overnight the 27th and into the 28th of July, that brings a band of thundery rain up across the country. And I remember this night as well. It was really warm and muggy this night. It must have been 20 degrees at like 10 o'clock at night, and this was on the 27th. And there was just like moderate rain with quite large raindrops and just maybe a flash of lightning and a rumble of thunder every 5 minutes or so, and it felt really tropical. That's really what I can describe that as. And then that low pressure, as that clears away, that low pressure on the 29th then sort of hangs around the country, and then this day was a very convective day as well. On that southwesterly there, showers developing a lot of the residual heat left in the atmosphere. And again, these are the lightning strikes recorded on the 29th, over 10,000 of them. And I had 3 thunderstorms this day in Manchester. And again, you can see that video. You can see those videos on my channel as well, which I will leave in the description too. Those clear away into the 30th. But you can also see again on the 30th, high pressures building back into Europe. So this is again going to fuel another heat wave as we go into the last day of July. So there's the 31st, we're bringing warmer air up again. And that takes us into the 1st of August 2013. And August 2013 starts off with a massive heat wave. Overall, it has a central England temperature of 16.9, which is warmer than average, and it's actually the warmest August since 2004. Just proving actually how poor a lot of Augusts have been in recent years. But as I said, yeah, we start off with this massive heat wave on the 1st, and we record 34.1 degrees at Heathrow, which makes it the warmest day since July 2006. So again, you know, all of these warmest since July 2006 showing up. And it stays very warm into the 2nd, and this chart's actually on midnight on the 2nd, and those are the upper air temperatures. So we have the 15 Celsius isotherm, you know, across pretty much all of England and Wales. And I think even for a time on like the evening of the 1st, the 20 Celsius actually came into the south, you know, so it was extremely hot. I was even up to 31 degrees up here. But that does clear away, and there are some big thunderstorms actually in Essex on the 2nd and into the 3rd. And then we go into a bit more of a typical summer regime then. So we sort of have the Azores high lingering around the UK, but low pressure passing to the northwest of Scotland. And that goes on into the 4th, the 5th and the 6th of August. We bring another small area of low pressure in before high pressure comes in on the 8th, and again the temperatures were back up into the mid-20s on this day. Into the 9th and the 10th of August, another fairly warm day. And then we went a little bit more unsettled then. So on the 11th and the 12th, low pressure passes to the northwest of Scotland, and that just brought, you know, a cooler, sort of a cold front through the country. So it was just a cooler couple of days before by the 13th, again, the high pressure comes back, and into the 14th and the 15th, you know, we have temperatures going up to 30 degrees in the south again. And then on the 16th, we bring another area of low pressure into the north, and this is really where the only major Atlantic spell is in this month, because through the 17th, you can see we actually bring, you know, quite a deep area of low pressure to the northwest of Scotland, and into the 18th. So this brought quite a cool and breezy day. So, you know, just a bit of a sign though that, you know, autumn is slowly approaching. But, you know, the high pressure comes back because through the 19th and into the 20th, builds back through the country, and, you know, temperatures rise again and the sky is clear. And it goes on into the 21st and the 22nd of August. And then on the 23rd, we actually have quite a warm southerly there. So again, this brings temperatures up to 30 degrees in the south, you know, in the high 20s elsewhere. And that low pressure running into it does bring some thunderstorms for the southwest. So again, you know, the summer still trying to hang on. Into the 24th and the 25th before high pressure, you know, builds back into the 26th. And that really sees us through the rest of the month then. So the 27th and into the 28th, high pressure is just, you know, lingering around the country. It's keeping it, you know, not scorching, but pleasantly warm. So, you know, in the mid-20s. So into the 29th and the 30th and the 31st of August 2013. But the summer wasn't quite done with us yet, because as we went into the start of September, you know, the high pressure has another surge towards the UK, and we sort of get a bit of an early autumn heat wave. So temperatures very slowly rise through the 2nd and into the 3rd of September. And then on the 4th, we actually have temperatures up into the high 20s before on the 5th, they peak at 30.2 degrees at Writtle, Essex, which makes it again the first 30 Celsius day in September since 2006. But then on the 6th of September, there are the upper air temperatures on the 5th of September. So again, the 15 Celsius isotherm is coming into the south. But you can also see there we've got cooler air waiting out into the Atlantic, and that comes in on the 6th of September. And basically what this does now, this brings autumn across the country. So we get some very heavy rain actually crossing the country, and it even brings some flash floods. And for some there's like a 15 Celsius temperature drop. and that goes into the 7th and the 8th and the 9th and the 10th. So we have a bit of a northerly there on the 10th. And as I said, autumn finally rushed in. Now what was through the rest of the autumn, there was further warm spells through the autumn, and I think the last week of September was relatively nice, and October was quite a warm month. But what kind of winter did it lead on to? Now I'm sure a lot of people remember this one because the winter of 2013-14 was extremely wet and stormy. And in fact I've done a historic video on that winter. It was much different to the winter starting 2013. Absolutely, horrendous for people who look for cold and snow. But yeah, if you want to check out that historic video, be sure to find it on my channel. But yeah, that's going to do it for this look at the summer of 2013. A lot of you asked for it, so I hope it's satisfied you quite well, this one. So yeah, remember to keep your requests coming through, and thanks for watching this historic video, guys, and I'll see you soon.